we're gonna stick on the title of on the topic of championships. We're gonna go to the big three, man. The big three has had their championship, man. Was it Gilbert Arenas led enemies? They won their first title against Lisa Leslie's triplets. You know, Lisa Leslie was a coach. Shout out to them. Gilbert Arenas was a coach of the triplets and the enemies respectively. The enemies won 50-43, so it was a pretty good game, man. And Jordan Crawford, you know, he was a former Wizards guard in the NBA. He went crazy, man. He had a stellar performance. He went nuts. You know, Joe Johnson's still going strong on the other team. He was on the triplets. He's still going strong at age 42. You know, so it's a really great showcase, man. Shout out to Ice Cube for being the first black-owned sports league, man. That is so dope, man. I really love watching them. It's really fun, man. They had the All-Star game, the Celebrity game, the All-Star game as well with, I think, Jaylen Brown played in there. And this was the first championship game in London as well, man. And this is the 6th season for Big Three. And it was also dope because this is Gilbert Arenas and Jordan Crawford's like a reunion because they both played for the Washington Wizards in the NBA, and now they're coming together to take home a title, you know, with Gilbert Arenas being the coach and Jordan Crawford being the best player. So yeah, man, Gilbert Arenas, shout out to them, man. Shout out to them. We gonna show my boy Gilbert Arenas right here too, man. So I really think that they did their thing, man. So we wanna show Gilbert Arenas some love. But of course, once again, you know, we talk about Gilbert Arenas. Gilbert Arenas always has some controversial takes, man. I like listening to him because he's funny and he's going. I feel like he really does mean what he says. That's the crazy part. I really think he means what he says, and I respect that too. You know, he's never afraid to say what's on his mind and give out his takes. And he had a pretty interesting take, man. You know. That brings us to our next topic, his take on Draymond Green. Not just Draymond Green, but others as well. But he said that you know, we had a Hall of Fame induction ceremony with featuring Dwayne Wade, Paul Gasol, Becky Hammond, Popovich, some Dirk Nowitzki, and yeah, he had an interesting take, man. He said that Draymond Green wouldn't be in his Hall of Fame. He said that some people, you know, a lot of their accolades and a lot of their you know, a lot of their accolades and a lot of their renown comes from being on championship-worthy teams, not so much from their individual stature or stats because they stand alone by themselves. And my thoughts on this is that I'm going to play devil's advocate again. I think... Now, I'm not even going to play devil's advocate. I'm going to be honest. I agree with him. Now, Draymond, don't. I ain't no Jordan Poole now. You know, I'm going to swing back. But don't pull up on me. But I do agree with him. Now, first off, you know, my first inclination is to say, man, you know, Gilbert Arenas, man, y'all got a brotherhood. Y'all both in the NBA and stuff like that. You don't want to come off as a hater. I don't think Gilbert Arenas is coming off as a hater, though. I know people will brush him off easy. Oh, yeah, you just hating. I don't think he's hating, man. I think he has a good point. It's like, you got to think about the inductees, man. You know what I'm saying? LeBron's in there. Jordan's in there. Kobe's in there. Rest in peace. You know what I'm saying? Tim Duncan's in there. Wilt's in there. Bill Russell's in there. John Stockton's in there. You know, think of the people, you know, who's going to be in there soon. You know, D Wade's in there. Nowitzki's in there. You know, it's just so many greats that they were the number one or, you know, even the number two on their team, but they could be a number two elsewhere. I'm going to be honest, Draymond Green, I don't think he's a number one or two anywhere. And so I think that's what he's coming from. I don't think he's hating on Draymond because if you're everything included, of course, you know, he has defensive player of the year too. You know, he does his thing. I'm not saying that he's not good. He's more than a role player, but he ain't a star player. You know what I'm saying? Like he's a star player in a role. He's a role player. He's a star role player. If that makes sense. He's a role player that has some breakout things and where he has some stardom as a role player. I'll put it like that. But you're not asking Draymond to lead your team as far as being the number one or two guy. You don't want him to be the primary or even secondary scorer. And I say it's all about scoring because, you know, you guys assist, you know, players too. John Stockton, my favorite point guard of all time. He's an assist demon. I love Rajon Rondo for what he did in Boston. But, you know, outside of the championships, you could even argue that Rajon Rondo was more important than Draymond Green to his teams. You know, if you want to argue, I'm not saying he is or he isn't, but is Rajon Rondo going to the Hall of Fame? I mean, I don't know. But I think his point is that, you know, if you weren't the number one guy or the number two guy or your statistics by themselves alone without the rings, if that could get you in the Hall of Fame, then you might not be in there. Like, for example, even with this past Hall of Fame ceremony, he said that he thinks that Dwayne Wade, he said they might need to have two jackets, a gold jacket and a green jacket. D Wade, he's in there off rip. Nowitzki's in there off rip. But he said outside of those two, as far as players goes, he wasn't included Pop. He said maybe Paul Gasol. He's like he'd be a selection committee. Like he'll have the green jacket, and I don't agree with him on Paul Gasol in particular, but I understand what he's saying. Like it's just a thought. Like I don't know. Like Draymond Green, I think he's gonna be in the Hall of Fame. I'm not gonna have an issue with him being in the Hall of Fame, but I do understand what he's saying because Robert Horry Hall of Fame worthy. He has what 6 or 7 championships. Of course, he was on championship teams, but was he ever? I don't want to minimize these people's roles though. I don't want to say it was inconsequential. That's not the right word. But were they replaceable? Jordan's not replaceable. LeBron's not replaceable. Granted, he's the active player, so he's not in the Hall of Fame yet, but that's where he's going. Bird's not replaceable. Magic's not replaceable. Jokic is not replaceable. Giannis is not replaceable. But a lot of them other players that were on the team, they were. Tim Duncan, in regards to Robert Horry, Kobe and Shaq and Tim Duncan, they weren't replaceable. Robert Horry, he had a big shot Bob, but, we could get Steve Curry to hit them shots. You know what I'm saying? We could get Kyle Korver probably hit them shots. You see what I'm saying? Ray Allen, Ray Allen Hall of Fame. I'm not take off Ray Allen, excuse me, because that's my favorite player of all time. Ray Allen definitely hit them shots. But let's say James Jones would probably hit them shots. And those who don't remember James Jones, Rashard Lewis would probably hit them shots. So my point is that's what he's saying, and I agree with what he's saying, man. I think Hall of Fame is a little bit too lenient with their inductees. Like I said, I'm not banging on I'm not banging on Draymond Green. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be it or he should. I'm saying I understand the point and the angle where Gilbert Arenas is coming from. And especially Gilbert Arenas, you can't argue that, man. He might have had a short career. He had them, hey, that Heat game, he had the Heat and he ain't playing Miami. You know what I'm talking about? So we know that his career was cut a little short for a lot of off-court instances and off-court disturbances and some trouble. But when the 2, 3 years, 4 years, man, he was that dude in Washington. So I think he has a right to say that. I think people should hear him out and don't just say that he's a hater. Don't write him off as a hater because he's a former player, former star player. Those are just my thoughts, man. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. That's crazy though. I think he had a good point, man. But we're gonna go down to another conversation, man. Speaking of the best and staying in the realm of basketball. Steph Curry was asked who's the best point guard, or does he belong in the conversation of being the best point guard? And he said yes. He said you got to mention me. And a lot of some people are like, oh wow, they consider him so humble, and I'm like, they're like, oh man, I don't know if he should have said that. Of course he should have said that. You can't be this caliber of anything at this high of a level and not think that you either are or have the capacity of being the best. So I have no issue with this. I don't think his humility should come into question. He has all the accolades, all the titles, all the rewards, all the renown to back up his statement and his feeling. Now, while I might disagree, I think he's one of the best. I don't think he's the best, especially when you think about a point guard. Like, I'm old school, man. When you think about a point guard, I put an emphasis on the word point. Point means that you take lead. And I'm not saying that Steph Curry doesn't take lead, but he just does it different ways. He's scoring. My ideal point guard is Magic, Jason Kidd, John Stockton, Chris Paul, somebody of that cloth where they're setting up. It's like a checkerboard, or even checker's too easy. It's like a chessboard, and as they're dribbling the ball up court, they're moving people. As he moves, as I dribble this way, I know this person go cut this way. I'm gonna set up that. They're setting them each other up. Steph Curry does do that. I think how he does that is minimized because he does a lot of it off the ball too, but he can also make on the ball, and I think he does it very well. However, he doesn't do it as much as John Stockton, as much as Magic, as much as Chris Paul, as much as some of those other, point guards. And I do think that people forget about Isaiah Thomas too. We talk about Big Zeke. They forget about him. And, I just think that Steph should have this mentality. I think that's what gets him there. I think that's humble. He didn't just say, oh yeah, I'm the best. These other guys don't matter. He just said, yeah, I should definitely be up there. And I agree with him, man. But I do think that in this regard, I think Magic is the best point guard, in my opinion. I think Michael Jordan hit up Stephen A. Smith and they're discussing this, and he said, yeah, Magic is the best. And I do think from a leader standpoint, what he could do with the ball, how he could create for his teammates, Magic is the best point guard for me, what I'm saying? Not to mention his physicality and his his height, his stature, everything that he did. I think Magic is the #1 guy as far as the point guard position. I think he's the epitome of the point guard position. I think Steph Curry has a right to that and to believe that he is. I just think he approaches a point guard. He's more of a scorer than a facilitator. And there's nothing wrong with that because he can't be stopped. So just because you have a different approach doesn't mean that it's wrong. But as the best point guards, when we talk about point guards, emphasis on the point, I got to go with Magic, man. So, but yeah, I definitely like this conversation. I love these conversations, man. I love what these highly skilled ladies and gentlemen speak on themselves and speak highly of themselves, because you got to have confidence. You can't get anywhere without confidence. So I don't think he's being conceited. I don't think he's being cocky. I just think he's being honest, and I think he has a right to say that. So shout out to Steph Curry for being open and, and putting himself out there like that. But I think in this case, Magic got it. Steph Curry, if I was to rank him, man, it's so tough for me with the point guards because, like I said, I'm an old school type of person myself, man. So I like Magic's my number one. I definitely have Steph up there in no particular order outside of Magic being number one. I got Steph up there. I got Isaiah Thomas up there. I got Jason Kidd up there. I got John Stockton. John Stockton's my favorite point guard. I got him up there. I got Chris Paul up there. You know what I'm saying? And you can't forget about the great ones. You know what I'm saying? There's so many great players out there, especially the point guard position, that you just can't forget about people, man. And but I definitely think Magic is number one. And so, it's always good to have the best versus the best, baby. And speaking of the best versus the best, we talk about one-on-one matchups. Let's talk about this boxing over this past weekend. Go check out the YouTube. Consider being a YouTube member, because I'm going to be dropping the full episode, but it's only going to be accessible to YouTube members and those that are on the Patreon. So you can check in the video in the description of the video. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, man, think about subscribing, help your boy out, man. Show your boy some love. You appreciate the episodes and stuff like that. Also hit us up on the email engineearstothestreetz@gmail.com with all your comments, and we'll definitely address those in the next episode. I'll be happy to, man. All your critiques, things that you agree with, things that you disagree with. Yeah. So from the hood to college, both worlds they had to meet. 6 degrees between us, so cold we're about to freeze, but we're Florida boys. Hot takes, we bring the heat. We're moving the culture, the engineers to the streets.